talk with Ms. Lucia?
She is unrepresented, Your Honor.
Okay, you're not representing her.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, we called a case of 22-239. Margaret Bruno, is it Lucia?
This is who you're calling right here, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear, I'm representing the, authorized representative for the legal fiction. And I cannot cross the bar if you.
It's striking how someone can project such certainty while still struggling to meet the standards required to pass the bar, raising questions about practical legal understanding rather than raw intelligence. The irony deepens when she claims she couldn't hear during her first hearing and felt her concerns weren't addressed, yet then chooses to stand at a distance that clearly worsens the situation. By doing so, she appears to create the very obstacle she later points to as unfair treatment. This inconsistency weakens her position and suggests an unwillingness to acknowledge personal choices. Overall, the video reflects less a systemic failure and more a disconnect between expectations, responsibility, and realistic engagement with the process.
It's not as sophisticated as my hearing aids, but I can hear you this time.
All right.
All right, I just want to be clear that when I was here for the arraignment, first off, I never had a first appearance. Within 24 hours, I was incarcerated for 13 days without a first appearance. Bond was set.
And that's true because you wouldn't sign the documents at the jail. Until you sign documents at the jail, you don't.
Where is that written that you have to sign anything? Because I couldn't find it. It just simply says within 24 hours I would go before a judge. I had
you
felony
weren't properly
charges.
booked, so that's the way that was. But I'm not going to argue with that point. But go
Okay,
ahead.
well, I just want to get it on the record that I am here on a special appearance, and I'm just the authorized representative for this birth certificate. It has been federally authenticated, if you want to take a look at it. It has been certified by the state and federally authenticated. I am the owner of this SQQV.
This judge stands out for the way he allows her to present her carefully prepared statements without ever giving credibility to the ideas behind them. He listens with patience, yet makes it unmistakably clear that the courtroom is governed by law, not personal interpretations of it. When she claims to be American but not an American citizen, and therefore beyond legal authority, he immediately and calmly corrects that position. His method reflects a strong balance between courtesy and control, ensuring order without unnecessary confrontation. Through this approach, he reinforces a clear principle: individual beliefs cannot replace or outweigh established legal reality.
I stand on the land and soil. I'm under the public law.
Okay.
And I have a right to pass through service.
All right. So I take it you're representing yourself today.
No, I am presenting myself.
Okay. So you're not going to enter a plea today or work out negotiations or anything?
I'm not making any plea whatsoever. I have not consented to contract with this court in any way.
Okay.
I'm an American state national. I'm not a sovereign citizen. That was a hate crime under which I was arrested, and the arresting officer has since quit his job with the Jasper Police Department.
All right. Well, safe. We can.
I have a file here that I have one prepared for both the prosecutor and for you, Judge, if you'd like to take a look and go along with me on what I'd like to bring before the court. My goal is that this case get dismissed with prejudice before I walk out today.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Pow!
All right. Well, here's what we're going to do today. I'll look this over for you.
This file is not completed. Let me explain. All the highlighted areas, I met with the clerk of court, Greg Godwin, and the areas that were in yellow here, I expected that he would be able to provide the information for me to complete these documents. I am not able to mail them until I can get them completed. He suggested that I talk with, is it John Durham, or who is it, Durant? Am I getting that correct, Tabitha?
That's Mr. Durrett, the state attorney.
Durrett, okay.
Mm-hmm.
He suggests that I should talk with him as far as getting this information completed. He said he wasn't able to complete the information, otherwise I can hire somebody to get this information for me. So if this case is not going to be submitted, with the first letter in here is a fair notice and warning letter, and it speaks to what the issues are here. First off, it was a false arrest because I do have a right to travel. No, and then also there is no contract. The application for a driver's license does not tell anybody that you are trading a God-given right for a privilege.
If a right is truly described as divinely granted, it should be possible to clearly show where such authority is stated, rather than relying on vague claims. It is interesting how appeals to higher authority often surface only when ordinary legal responsibilities are challenged. No religious text supports the idea that rules designed for public safety are optional or subject to personal preference. Using faith as a shield against licensing requirements does not make the argument stronger. It highlights its lack of substance. Belief may shape personal values, but it does not replace established law or alter practical reality.
And there's nobody here that was harmed. Deprivation of due process, Your Honor, you denied me a first appearance. And I have not heard the charges because I am hard of hearing. I brought that to the attention of the court at the arraignment. And your comment was simply, I'm talking as loud as I can. Well, that doesn't do any good for somebody who has a disability, and you have a responsibility to.
She repeatedly states that she does not want any explanations and insists her condition prevents her from hearing what is being said. At the same time, she chooses not to stand at the podium, a spot clearly intended to improve communication and placed only a short distance closer to the judge. That decision directly conflicts with her stated concern and weakens her overall position. If understanding the proceedings were truly important, taking a simple step to improve clarity would be the obvious choice. Instead, her behavior suggests the issue is less about accommodation and more about avoiding responsibility, as consideration requires cooperation as well.
I mean, I still haven't really heard the charges. You know, when it started out, I was slammed with 7 felony charges. Had a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights because they did a search and seizure of my vehicle. They tossed my car completely. He claims he found the phone in my car. He didn't. He took it out of my hand after shoving my arm. That was assault and battery. And then when I got into the police vehicle, my keys were in my pocket. He took them out of my pocket. All right, that again is assault and battery.
So now the claim is that the officer took the keys from a pocket that has only just been acknowledged. It's notable how certain details suddenly appear when the argument begins to lose ground. Moments earlier, that pocket was never mentioned, yet now it is essential to the complaint. This shifting narrative does not support the claim. It highlights inconsistency instead. When the account keeps changing, trust in the story fades just as quickly.
For 8 days. He allowed me to sit in jail for 8 days with felony charges hanging over my head, of which you put a $38,000 bond on me without my participation. Again, that was a violation or deprivation of due process. The felony charges were bogus. I'm an international notarial witness for the United States of America, unincorporated. I had those, were the driver's license on my phone, and birth certificates because I do remote notarization for people. I had a right to have that. I had it by permission of the people that sent it to me. The prosecutor, Dana Brady Giddens, she failed to act for 6 days. After, on July 1st, Travis transferred it from the felony side over to misdemeanors. She sat on it for 6 days. I sat in jail for 13 days, not even knowing what was going on. And it wasn't until after I got out of jail and I called her, and while I was on the phone, she goes, oh, here it is. She asked me what my name was, and she goes, oh, here it is, and she opened it while I was on the phone. So Travis sat on it for 7 days. Whatever happened to due process? Don't they have a responsibility to act timely? Because I know I do. I was kidnapped and taken to a prisoner of war camp. I had no choice in this, and I'm an American. I'm an American state citizen. I stand above this court. I stand above this for-profit corporation. First time that I saw you, sir, was 44 days after my arrest. And again, my Americans with Disability Act rights were violated in that you made no accommodation at all for my not being able to hear you. So as far as I know, I never did put in a plea. I have not pled in any way whatsoever. I have not consented. I have signed absolutely nothing. I signed no citations. I have had communication with Tabitha and Dana. We have been writing back and forth on our 72 rule of response, and I can't get answers out of them. They keep telling, I ask for documentation, and all I get is no documents responsive, no documents responsive, over and over again. I ask her for her oath of office on Florida letterhead, nothing. I get a scrap of paper. I ask her for a signed contract on my side, I get a citation that's not signed. The citation wasn't even signed by the arresting officer, it's by somebody else, and it has comments in it.
He has no duty to remain engaged when the exchange offers no meaningful substance to respond to. At that stage, the issue is not being ignored, but the absence of a coherent point. Repetition and loud delivery do not transform unclear statements into valid arguments. When reasoning is missing, there is nothing productive to address. In such moments, stepping away is not avoidance, but a practical and reasonable choice.
So anyway, I didn't sign anything. I have not contracted with this court. I haven't contracted at all. And why? Because I don't need to. I'm not under these statutes, rules, regulations, codes, ordinances, mandates, and all the rest. I tried to explain that to the public defender here that you assigned to talk to me. And then basically everything out of his mouth came out right out of this hate crime document called Law Enforcement Guide to Sovereign Citizens. I'm not a Moor. I'm not a Waukesha nation. I'm an American state citizen.
Okay.
To call somebody a sovereign citizen is slander. To put it in writing is libel. Sovereign is a king. Somebody who is governing, self-governing. Citizen balance the accounts of the public, the public all caps name. And to keep the public charitable trust in balance. Roosevelt put us on an all-debit system, and these credits have been stolen from the people. And all I'm trying to do is my responsibility here. So I'm planning to subrogate this. If you look at the second document, or maybe you already have, and you've seen the list of people I will send it to. Governor DeSantis has been involved in my case. I have a letter here that was sent to him. If you would like to see that, let's see, maybe it's in one of the other files. Anyway, he has been involved in this as well, because he is also part of the problem here, in that he is not assisting the Americans within this state to be safe from the harm that is being caused by this system, by the law enforcement officers and
That assumption no longer holds, because law enforcement, courts, public officials, and everyday people are increasingly familiar with these approaches. Whether the label is sovereign citizen or something rebranded as an American state, the language and arguments are well known. These claims have been raised many times and have consistently failed under scrutiny. As awareness grows, tolerance for recycled arguments naturally decreases. Changing the name does not alter the facts or the legal reality behind them.
2 different occasions, they have my fee schedule as to what I'll be charging when this is all over, and I have to come back and have my rights restored and my property restored. My car was towed from in front of the police station. That's where I was when all this happened. I was in talking to Chief Rickerson. I went in and I noticed both the chief and the sheriff, the clerk of court, and the property appraiser when I got here back in March, that I was an American state citizen and I'm not a U.S. citizen. They were both noticed. They've both been noticed twice. And along with that was the fee schedule of what I charge when my rights are violated.
Wow! The land of make-believe!
I was talking with the police chief for the 4th time. We have sat down and had 4 conversations on how we educate the officers to know the difference so people are not harmed on the side of the road. I wasn't even on the side of the road. I was parked in front of the police station when all this went down. I wasn't even in my car. This officer got in my face back in April, and he stood there. I was meeting with the police chief, Chief Rickerson. At that time, he was an interim police chief. And this officer barged into our discussion and got in my face and started spitting on me with his saliva. He was like this close to me, yelling at me, telling me, I'm a police officer for 25 years, and I've dealt with plenty of people like you. And he went on and on and on, okay? No, he hasn't dealt with anybody like me.
Despite the confidence on display, there is a clear misunderstanding of legal rights and an overestimation of personal distinction. This mindset traces back to the identity often claimed as American state national, which closely mirrors long-standing sovereign citizen arguments. The resistance to that comparison stems from how strongly it conflicts with the self-image being projected. In practice, the terminology may change, but but the reasoning and the outcome remain unchanged. Viewed on its own, the claim fits a familiar pattern that most observers would immediately recognize.
Not get through the 2020 election and not know that there's something seriously wrong with this country. And I have seen this coming for many, many years. I studied it with my husband. My husband passed back in 2010.
By any measure, it was a near miss, the kind of moment where events could have spiraled out of control in seconds. A single choice shifted the outcome away from serious consequences and toward a safer result. In hindsight, it becomes clear just how thin the line was between a bad outcome and something far worse. Situations like this highlight how delicate the balance can be in tense moments. Sometimes, fortune intervenes before the full weight of reality sets in.
In 2016, I read an article that the Pope had relinquished our Social Security accounts to the U.S. Treasury, and I knew something had changed, something was up, and I went looking. And when I went looking, I found at least 20 organizations trying to help people come out of slavery, come out of this U.S. citizen slavery.
For a small fee, they advertise so-called insider knowledge that claims to solve serious legal and financial problems with effortless shortcuts. It sounds appealing at first, until a moment of reflection exposes how unrealistic those promises are. In reality, it's a scheme built on recycled ideas that have repeatedly failed under scrutiny. The sellers profit from hope while offering nothing that actually works when tested against real rules. A careful look makes it clear that confidence alone cannot turn empty claims into truth.
The Pope, which is the financial arm, and to Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, which is the military arm of the one world government. Well, I don't go with that because I serve a king. I serve the Almighty King. That is who I am. I am a child of the King. I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm a child of the King, and I have rights that were given to me, sovereign rights given to me by my Creator. And I live by the Bible. I don't live by any kind of religion, sir. I read the Bible.
I may not be particularly religious, but there's a passage that fits this situation perfectly. Romans 13 teaches that governing authorities are established with God's permission, and resisting them carries real consequences. The role of leaders is to prevent wrongdoing, not to penalize those who act responsibly. Claiming to follow God while ignoring the law directly contradicts that principle. Simply put, live by your stated beliefs and obey the rules, especially when operating a vehicle.
Jesus or Yeshua, I prefer to call him by his Hebrew name. The 2 commandments, to love God above all things and to love your neighbor as yourself, I live by that. But that's a summary of the 10 commandments that are in the Old Testament, Exodus 20. And the first 5 commandments are how you love your Creator. And the second 5 commandments is how you love your neighbor. And I live by that, sir. And this officer had to break several of those commandments to put me into this system. He had to lie, and he had to steal my property. And if this is the system that this government or this for-profit corporation is trying to force on the people, then you guys should all be ashamed of yourself. I am asking, I'm not asking, I am demanding. See, a sovereign does not motion the court. A sovereign demands. I am demanding that this case be dismissed with prejudice because I'm going down for the count. I'll take whatever punishment you give me. And I think my 13 days in jail without signing anything, just for comfort, should give you an idea of the fact that I finish what I start.
Your commitment to finishing what you start is unmistakable, and the empty paint cans left on the breakfast table this morning prove it. Leaving them in plain view makes the dedication hard to miss. The consistency of this pattern is almost remarkable. The real question isn't whether you complete tasks, it's the judgment behind them. Sometimes, actions reveal far more about a person than words ever could.
It was quite a surprise. I wasn't prepared for it. If it hadn't been that I took a couple in who were homeless, I probably would have ended up going home to a dead dog in a house full of crap. But that gentleman, the people that I took in who were homeless, called my girlfriend and said she didn't come home last night. Well, my girlfriend knew that I was on my way to the post office in Live Oak, and she knew I was going to stop by and talk to the sheriff. So first call she made was to the Suwannee County Jail. Second call was to the Hamilton County Jail, and she found me. I was sitting in jail. I've never been in trouble with the law before. Do you know what it's like for a 73-year-old woman to have to stand there and take her underwear off and stand?
I understand the situation. Having experienced gym class, organized sports, and military service, Modesty is not unfamiliar to me. Being exposed in front of others can be an inevitable result of certain choices. The key point is that every action carries consequences, whether you accept them or not. If someone cannot handle the outcomes of breaking the law, the simplest solution is to follow it. Complaining and posturing achieves nothing, and it's time to adopt a more responsible approach.
Basic humanity here. And I was given an orange jumpsuit. I don't look good in orange at all. I have to bring some humor so I can stop crying. I wore that jumpsuit in my underwear for 13 straight days.
That's nasty.
Because I wouldn't sign your paperwork, because I would not come in contract with this corporation, this for-profit corporation. You're not a government, let's be honest. Because I wouldn't come in contract with you, I suffered extremely.
It seems you're now confronting the results of your own choices, Karen. Nothing that has happened came out of nowhere or without clear warning signs. The path you chose inevitably led to this point, and now you are seeing the consequences unfold. It's difficult to feel sympathy when accountability could have been taken from the beginning. Ultimately, there comes a moment when excuses must give way to accepting full responsibility.
You got a swamp cooler in that jail. It's loud and it's cold. And every guard was wearing a jacket, and every inmate had a sweatshirt except for me. 3 days I asked for a sweatshirt. On the 4th day, when I asked, the guard said, "You don't sign out paperwork, you don't get nothing." Yeah, that's real sweet. There's a camera right above the toilet. Yeah, that's real sweet. You're sleeping on a steel bed. When I went and signed their paperwork, they gave me a mattress where the fabric was touching fabric. I have a 9-inch spread, thumb to little finger, and I can tell you that the padding of that mattress lay within a lump, 12 inches by 30 inches. The very first day in holding, I had a bruise on my tailbone from sitting on a steel bed. You know, I'm used to a mattress and I have a memory foam topper on.
Everything you've described comes across as self-inflicted complaints that never had to exist in the first place. These issues aren't inevitable or confusing. They stem directly from a conscious decision to ignore the law. Following basic rules would have prevented all of these situations from occurring. The real gap isn't in circumstance but in accountability. In the end, taking responsibility, not seeking sympathy, is what resolves these problems.
I drink on average almost a gallon a day. My dog and I consume a gallon a day. You get coffee in the morning, you get Kool-Aid for lunch and dinner, and you get absolutely no water. And the only water coming out of the faucet in the bathroom is hot water. Okay, this is inhumane. I was tortured for my faith. Why would I say that? Because according to Revelation 18:4, it says, "Come out of her, my people." I am one of his people. And that Revelation 18 is all about Babylon. And yes, I did the paperwork to come out of this Babylonian system. Matthew 6:24 says, "I can't serve two masters." Well, who gets the taxes? Who gets the first tithe? The government grabs it right out of your paycheck. You don't have a choice. Steals it right from God. We don't get to give God our first fruits. I don't know what your faith is, but that's my faith. I serve the mighty Creator. It was very boring.
Come on, Karen, are you really complaining that jail was boring? Detention isn't designed to be enjoyable or comfortable. It's a consequence of your actions, not a getaway. If the dullness is your main complaint, you're completely missing why you were there in the first place. The point isn't comfort, it's accountability and the result of your choices. Spending that time on reflection would be far more productive than expecting sympathy.
On the 5th day, the guards came in and took all the books out, so I had nothing I could read. And then the girls gave me some paper. I had 3 sheets of paper. I started writing and writing and writing, front and back, as small as I could. And when I ran out of those 3 sheets of paper, the girls in the cell on the other side started giving me paper. Why? Because I befriended them. We talked about our Savior. We talked about why we were there. I wasn't preaching, I don't preach, but I shared with them that, you know, they got themselves in trouble. And the first thing they need to do is straighten out their lives and get right with their Creator, because if they can do that, the rest...
Regarding that document, there's no need to wait 3 days for any decision. The judge denied your motion to dismiss right at the start of the video. That matter was already resolved before you even began your argument. Everything that comes afterward is just unnecessary repetition and filler. So go ahead, Karen, but the outcome has long since been determined.
or a mom to those other girls who have lost their way along the way. 5 of the girls in that prison or jail recommitted their lives to God while I was there. And I'm very happy for them, and I continue to pray for them. I want you to know, sir, that I pray for you also. I pray for every one of you, because I pray that the Father will take the veil off your eyes so you can see what's really going on here. I don't know what you know. I have no idea what you know, but I know exactly how it works, and I know about the security bond, and I know how you have hit my SQQB trust, and that's what this subrogation is of that bond. Because I'll be filling out all the IRS forms. If this case is not dismissed with prejudice today, or I'll give you 3 days.
It's almost comical how she starts by insisting she fully understands her obligations, only to immediately claim she has uncovered a way to outsmart the entire system. Her subsequent actions only serve to weaken her own credibility. There's no hidden IRS account that can erase debts, and fancy language cannot transfer or avoid legal responsibility. Using a sovereign citizen approach in court isn't ingenious, it's a surefire way to fail. In the end, confidence without substance doesn't change reality or the law.